thousands of Calgarians have served our nation in war, and many made the ultimate sacrifice. The Calgary Soldiers Memorial, this monument, is dedicated to preserving the memory of those who fell. What you're about to see is the story of one of these monumental Canadians. The Victoria Cross is Canada's highest award for bravery in combat. 4 VCs were awarded at the Battle of Vimy Ridge, one to Calgarian John George Pattison. John Patterson was an ordinary man living an ordinary life. Born in England in 1875, he arrived in Calgary in 1906 with his wife Sophia Allen and their 4 children. Calgary was booming, and John soon found steady employment with a utility company as a laborer. When the war broke out in August 1914, John did not volunteer, and with good reason. He was nearly 41 years old, had 4 young children at home, and at 5'2", he was an inch short of the Army's minimum height requirement. But life changed for the Pattisons on January 4th, 1916, when his son, 18-year-old Henry, enlisted in the 82nd Battalion. 2 months later, John enlisted as a private in the 137th Battalion. Long casualty lists coupled with dwindling recruitment numbers meant the 1914 height requirement had been waived. Henry was transferred to the 137th at his father's request. In August 1916, father and son sailed overseas aboard Titanic's sister ship, the RMS Olympic. The battalion was disbanded shortly after they arrived in England. John then joined Calgary's 50th Battalion. Ironically, Henry would remain in England. Pattison Sr. arrived in France on the eve of Canada's historic attack on Vimy Ridge. Easter Monday, April 9th, 1917. The 100,000 soldiers of the Canadian Corps attacked the formidable, some said impregnable, German defenses on Vimy Ridge. 2 earlier attempts by the British and French had resulted in 100,000 casualties. Now, it was the Canadians' turn, and success seemed remote. By the end of the day, the Canadians had prevailed, and the attack was an unprecedented triumph. They had captured the ridge, except for a stronghold on the eastern slope of its high point, Hill 145. The 50th Battalion had been in reserve, and the next day were sent in to finish the job. At 3:15 p.m., April 10th, the 50th launched their attack. One soldier recalled that, "From the very first minute, we came under just murderous fire from the machine guns." Soldiers were cut down in droves, and the attack stalled. Pattison, likely experiencing his first taste of combat, seized the moment with great courage. He leapt up and under intense fire jumped from shell hole to shell hole, closing the distance to the machine gun nest. He hurled 3 hand grenades. The German crew was killed, wounded, or were stunned. Pattison, still alone, charged and dispatched the 5 surviving crew members with his rifle and bayonet. To his comrades, the little man had never stood so tall. The Canadians swept down the slope and, following a brief but bloody fight, secured Hill 145. Vimy Ridge was all Canadian. For his bravery, Pattison was recommended for the Victoria Cross. But the war went on. On June 3, 1917, the 50th attacked a heavily defended power plant near the town of Lens, within view of Vimy Ridge. German machine gun and artillery fire was fierce. Pattison and his machine gun crew took cover. Moments later, a direct hit wiped them out. Pattison was badly wounded. First aid was administered, but he died within a few minutes. He was 42 years old. On July 31, 1917, Pattison was awarded the Victoria Cross for his valor on Hill 145. Shortly after the announcement, Lieutenant Thomas Prescott wrote Pattison's grieving father in England.
"I was his officer when he was killed. I have been his officer ever since he and his son joined the 137th Battalion in Calgary. And I knew him not only as the finest type of soldier, but as my friend. You are probably aware that he has been awarded the greatest of honors, the Victoria Cross, for bravery."
Henry joined the 50th Battalion a month after John's death and survived the war. He returned to Calgary and would later serve in World War II. His mother, Sophia, proudly wore her husband's VC when she met the King in 1939. The honors to her husband continued. In 1951, the Alberta Geological Society named Mount Pattison near Jasper after him. And in 1967, the city of Calgary dedicated the Pattison Bridge. The finest tribute likely was in 1936, when King Edward VIII, in his only official act before abdicating, unveiled the Vimy Monument. Atop Hill 145, it stood not 300 meters from the spot where Pattison won the Victoria Cross during the final scene, in an epic struggle for a blood-soaked ridge whose capture transformed Canada from a British colony into a self-confident nation. And so it can be said of John George Pattison that he was anything but ordinary. He was a hero.